Picture a weary waitress drowning in bills and despair until a world-famous stranger walks into her diner with a secret that changes everything. The morning sun spilled through the diner's smudged windows, casting a warm glow over the checkered floor in a bustling corner of Miami's tourist district. Sarah Miller tied her faded blue apron, her fingers trembling slightly from another sleepless night. At 26, her face carried the weight of years, dark circles under her eyes, a smile that took effort to hold. The air smelled of burnt coffee and sizzling bacon, mingling with the clatter of plates and the hum of chatter from sunburned tourists. Sarah moved through the chaos, her sneakers squeaking, her notepad scribbled with orders. She'd been at Joe's diner for 3 years, serving eggs and burgers to strangers while her own life frayed at the edges. Her son, Ethan, 5 years old, was with her mother, who battled illness in a cramped apartment they could barely afford. Bills piled up, rent, medical costs, groceries, and Sarah's dreams of a better life felt like distant stars, fading with each dawn. She tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear, forcing a smile as she refilled a customer's coffee. Her heart was heavy, but she hid it well. The diner was her stage, her kindness, her armor. She served with grace, even when her feet ached, even when Ethan's school fees loomed like a storm cloud. Today felt no different. Same routine, same faces, same quiet ache in her chest. If you love stories of kindness, hit like, drop a smiley emoji in the comments and stick around for a jaw-dropping moment you won't expect. The breakfast rush was in full swing, tables crowded with families snapping photos of pancakes, businessmen tapping on laptops, and locals nursing coffee. Sarah weaved between them, balancing trays, her voice steady as she took orders. Jenny, her co-worker and closest friend, flashed her a quick grin from behind the counter. "You good, girl?" Jenny asked, her voice barely audible over the diner's din. Sarah nodded, but her eyes betrayed her exhaustion. Jenny knew the truth. Sarah's mother's hospital visits, the landlord's threats, the way Sarah skipped meals to save money for Ethan's shoes. At a corner booth, Mr. Davis, a regular with a gray beard and kind eyes, sat with his newspaper, watching Sarah with quiet concern. He always left a generous tip, slipping it under his plate with a nod, as if to say, "I see you." Sarah appreciated it, but it never felt like enough to bridge the gap between surviving and living. She moved to a new table, her pen poised, her smile automatic. "Welcome to Joe's," she said, glancing at the lone customer. Her breath caught. He wore a black t-shirt, a baseball cap pulled low, and sunglasses resting on the table. His face was familiar, too familiar, like a memory from a TV screen. Cristiano Ronaldo, the soccer star, here, in her diner. Sarah's heart raced, her hands gripping the notepad tighter. She'd seen him on billboards, in commercials, his name a household word even for someone like her, who barely followed sports. But there he was, studying the laminated menu, his posture relaxed, his presence almost invisible amidst the diner's chaos. She glanced around, no one else seemed to notice. Tourists chattered, forks scraped plates, and the jukebox played an old rock tune. Sarah swallowed hard, steadying her voice. "Good morning, sir. Can I get you something to drink?" Ronaldo looked up, his eyes warm, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "Just water, please," he said, his voice low, accented but clear. Sarah nodded, her cheeks flushing as she hurried to the counter. Jenny raised an eyebrow, sensing something, but Sarah shook her head, mouthing, "Later." She filled a glass with ice water, her hands shaky, her mind spinning. Was this real? Why was he here, alone, no entourage, no cameras? She'd served minor celebrities before, local news anchors, a reality TV star, but this was different. Ronaldo was a legend, a name tied to her childhood, to late nights watching games with her dad before he walked out. His goals, his flair, were moments of joy in a house that rarely had them. She returned with the water, setting it down carefully, her fingers brushing the glass. "Here you go," she said, her voice softer than intended. Ronaldo smiled, a genuine, unguarded smile that made her heart skip. "Thanks," he said, his eyes meeting hers for a moment. She felt seen, not just as a waitress, but as a person. She stepped back, her pulse still racing, and busied herself with other tables, stealing glances at him. He ate slowly, flipping through the menu, occasionally looking out the window at the bustling street. No one bothered him, no one seemed to know. Jenny sidled up to Sarah, wiping her hands on her apron. Is that who I think it is? She whispered, her eyes wide. Sarah nodded, barely perceptible, her lips pressed tight. Don't say anything, she murmured. Jenny grinned, nudging her. Girl, you're serving Ronaldo. Act cool. Sarah forced a laugh, but inside she was a mess. This wasn't just about serving a celebrity, it was about the flicker of hope he represented, a reminder of a time when she believed in more than just getting through the day. Ronaldo ordered a simple meal, grilled chicken, fries, a side of salad. Sarah scribbled it down, her handwriting shaky, and relayed it to the kitchen. The cook, a gruff man named Tony, raised an eyebrow at her flushed face, but didn't ask questions. As she waited for the order, Sarah's mind wandered. She thought of Ethan, his gap-toothed smile, his worn sneakers. She thought of her mother, coughing through the night, the medicine bottles lining the counter. She thought of the eviction notice taped to their door, the landlord's cold voice on the phone. Serving Ronaldo felt like a fleeting escape, a moment where the world wasn't so heavy. She brought his food, setting the plate down with care. Hope you enjoy it, she said, her voice steadier now. He nodded, his smile warm. Looks great. Thank you. She stepped away, watching from a distance as he ate, his movements unhurried, his presence calm. Mr. Davis caught her eye, raising his coffee mug with a knowing smile, as if he'd guessed who the stranger was. Sarah's chest tightened. She wanted to tell someone, to share this moment, but she held back. Ronaldo deserved his peace, and she needed to do her job. The lunch rush slowed, tables emptying, the diner's noise fading to a hum. Sarah cleared plates, refilled drinks, her eyes drifting to Ronaldo's table. He finished his meal, leaning back, his cap still low. She approached, her heart pounding again. Everything okay, sir? She asked. He grinned, pointing to the empty plate. Perfect. You guys are good. His praise felt like a small gift, warming her despite the exhaustion in her bones. Can I get you the check? She asked, her voice soft. He nodded and she hurried to the register, printing the bill, $22.50 for the meal and water. Simple, like him. She slipped the check into a black folder, her hand steady now, and placed it on his table. Whenever you're ready, she said, stepping back. Ronaldo opened the folder, glanced at the total, and pulled out his wallet. He counted out cash, his movements deliberate, then paused, scribbling something with a pen from his pocket. Sarah didn't see what he wrote, too busy clearing another table. He stood, his height commanding even in casual clothes, and nodded at her. You're amazing, he said, his voice low, sincere. Keep doing what you do. Her throat tightened, and she managed a shaky, thank you. He walked out, the bell above the door jingling, leaving the diner as quietly as he'd entered. Sarah stood frozen, her heart still racing. Jenny rushed over, her eyes wide. Was that really him? She whispered. Sarah nodded, her voice caught somewhere between disbelief and awe. She moved to clear his table, her hands automatic, and picked up the folder. Her breath stopped. Inside was the cash, $25 for the bill, and a folded note with a handwritten message. For you, Sarah. Keep pushing. CR. Tucked inside was a $200 tip, crisp bills that felt unreal in her hands. Her eyes blurred with tears, her knees weak. She read the note again, her name in his handwriting, the words sinking in. $200. More than her weekly tips combined. Enough for her mother's medicine, Ethan's shoes, a month's electricity. She clutched the folder, tears spilling down her cheeks, silent but heavy. Jenny gasped, peering over her shoulder. Oh my God, Sarah, she whispered, hugging her. Mr. Davis looked up from his newspaper, his eyes soft, as if he understood. The diner seemed to pause, the air thick with the weight of what had happened. Sarah sank into a chair, the note in her hands, her tears falling onto the table. It wasn't just money. It was a lifeline, a whisper of hope, a reminder that someone saw her struggle. Ronaldo didn't know her story. The nights she cried herself to sleep, the way she skipped meals for Ethan, the fear of losing their home. Yet, he'd seen her, in a way no one else had. The tears weren't just relief, they were gratitude, raw and overwhelming, for a stranger who'd given her more than he could ever know. The Miami sun beat down on the diner's faded awning, its heat seeping through the glass windows where Sarah Miller stood wiping down a table, her apron stained with coffee. The lunch rush had faded, leaving a scattering of customers nursing milkshakes or scrolling on their phones. Sarah's hands moved mechanically, but her mind was elsewhere, replaying the moment she'd opened the check folder and found Cristiano Ronaldo's note. "For you, Sarah. Keep pushing. CR." The $200 tip, more than she'd ever seen in one go, sat folded in her pocket, its weight both comforting and surreal. Her eyes still stung from crying, her heart caught between disbelief and a fragile hope. She tucked the note into her bra, close to her skin, as if it might disappear if she let it out of her sight. Jenny, her co-worker, hovered nearby, her usual chatter subdued, her eyes soft with awe. "You okay, girl?" she asked, stacking plates. Sarah nodded, her smile small but real. "I don't know what just happened," she whispered, her voice shaky. Jenny squeezed her arm, glancing at the empty booth where Ronaldo had sat. "That was no accident," she said. "He saw something in you." Sarah wanted to believe it, but years of struggle, bills piling up, her mother's illness, Ethan's worn-out clothes, made hope feel like a risk she couldn't afford. Back at the counter, Mr. Davis, the regular with the grey beard, lingered over his coffee, his newspaper folded. He'd seen the commotion, the way Sarah's hands shook as she held the folder. "Something special happened, didn't it?" he asked, his voice low, kind. Sarah hesitated, then nodded, her fingers brushing the note in her pocket. "Someone helped," she said, not ready to share the full story. Mr. Davis smiled, his eyes crinkling. "Good people are out there, Sarah. Don't forget that." His words stayed with her as she finished her shift, the diner's noise fading into a hum. She clocked out early, the manager, a gruff woman named Carla, waving her off with a rare smile. "Go home, kid. You look like you need it," Carla said, having heard whispers of the tip from Jenny. Sarah stepped into the humid Miami air, her sneakers scuffing the sidewalk, the $200 burning a hole in her pocket. She walked to the bus stop, her mind racing. The money could pay for her mother's medication, maybe cover the electric bill that was 2 weeks late. But Ronaldo's note, "Keep pushing," felt like more than a tip. It was a call to something bigger, something she hadn't dared to dream since Ethan was born. At home, in their cramped apartment, the air was thick with the smell of antiseptic and old carpet. Ethan, her 5-year-old, sat on the floor, coloring with broken crayons, his small face lighting up as Sarah walked in. "Mama!" he squealed, running to her, his arms wrapping around her legs. Sarah knelt, hugging him tight, her tears threatening to spill again. Her mother, Linda, sat in a worn recliner, an oxygen tube under her nose, her eyes tired but warm. "You're home early," Linda said, her voice raspy. Sarah sat beside her, pulling out the cash and the note, her hands trembling. "Mama, you won't believe what happened," she said, her voice breaking. She told them everything. Ronaldo's quiet presence, his simple order, the note, the tip. Linda's eyes widened, her frail hands covering her mouth. "Sarah, that's a miracle," she whispered. Ethan climbed onto Sarah's lap, pointing at the note. "Who's CR, Mama?" he asked, his voice curious. Sarah smiled, brushing his hair. "Someone who helped us, baby." She didn't mention Ronaldo's name. Not yet. It felt too big, too fragile, like a secret she needed to hold close. That night, Sarah couldn't sleep. She sat at the kitchen table, the apartment quiet, except for Linda's soft breathing and Ethan's occasional murmurs. The $200 was enough to ease some pressure, medicine for Linda, a new pair of sneakers for Ethan, but the note kept her awake. Keep pushing. She thought of her old dreams, buried under years of survival. She'd wanted to go to college, maybe study business, open a small cafe where people felt at home. But life had other plans. Her father's abandonment, her mother's illness, Ethan's birth. Dreams were luxuries she couldn't afford. Yet Ronaldo's words stirred something, a spark she thought had died. She pulled out her phone, scrolling through community college websites, her heart pounding. An online course in small business management caught her eye, affordable, with night classes she could manage around her shifts. The $200 could cover the first payment. She hesitated, her finger hovering over the enroll button. Was she crazy? She was a waitress, not a student. But the note, still tucked against her chest, felt like permission to try. She clicked enroll, her breath catching, a mix of fear and excitement flooding her veins. The next day at the diner, Sarah moved with a new energy, her steps lighter, her smile less forced. Jenny noticed, nudging her as they refilled ketchup bottles. "You're glowing, Sarah. Spill it." Sarah laughed, a sound she hadn't heard from herself in months. "I signed up for a business course," she said, her voice shy but proud. Jenny's jaw dropped. "Get out, because of that tip?" Sarah nodded, her cheeks flushing. "It's more than the money. It's like he saw me." Jenny hugged her, spilling ketchup on the counter, both of them laughing. Word of the tip had spread among the staff, and Carla, the manager, pulled Sarah aside. "You're doing something with that money, aren't you?" she asked, her usual gruffness softened. Sarah nodded, mentioning the course. Carla's eyes softened. "Good for you, kid. You deserve it." Later, Mr. Davis left his usual tip with a note of his own. "Proud of you, Sarah." The support, small but steady, felt like a lifeline, anchoring her to this new path. A week later, as Sarah balanced trays and studied flashcards during breaks, a stranger approached the diner's counter. Luis, a community organizer, with a warm smile and a clipboard, introduced himself. "Jenny told me about you," he said, his voice earnest. "I run a local nonprofit, job training, resources for families. I heard what happened with, you know who." Sarah's eyes widened, but Luis waved off her worry. "Don't stress. I'm not here to spill secrets. I just want to help." He handed her a card with contacts for free childcare and a job program for single moms. Sarah's throat tightened. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. Luis shrugged, his grin easy. "Because someone helped you, and that's how it works. We pass it on." That evening, Sarah got a call from an unknown number. A woman, identifying herself as part of Ronaldo's team, spoke briskly. "Mr. Ronaldo heard about your situation," she said. "He set up a small grant, $1,000, for you to start a business. No strings attached." Sarah nearly dropped the phone, her heart racing. "A grant? From Ronaldo?" She stammered a thank you, tears streaming down her face as she hung up. The grant changed everything. Sarah used it to buy supplies for a catering side hustle, tamales, empanadas, dishes her mother had taught her. She started small, selling at the diner and local markets, her food earning raves. Jenny helped with flyers, and Luis spread the word through his network. One weekend, Sarah got a surprise. A text from Luis inviting her and Ethan to a local soccer match. "A friend got us tickets," he wrote. At the stadium, Sarah's jaw dropped when Ronaldo's team took the field for an exhibition game. Ethan, clutching a foam finger, cheered wildly, his eyes glued to Ronaldo. Sarah watched, her heart full, knowing this wasn't a coincidence. After the game, Luis led them to a quiet corner where Ronaldo waited, his cap low, his smile warm. "Hey, Ethan," he said, kneeling to the boy's level. "Want to kick a ball with me?" Ethan's face lit up, and they played for 10 minutes, Ronaldo coaching him gently, Sarah watching through tears. "You're doing great, Sarah," Ronaldo said before leaving, his voice quiet but firm. "Don't stop." She nodded, unable to speak, the moment etching itself into her heart. Back at the diner, Sarah's catering orders grew, her business course fueling her confidence. She saved for a used van to make deliveries, her dreams no longer distant stars, but goals within reach. Jenny became her unofficial cheerleader, sneaking her food to customers who raved about it. Louise connected her with a local market organizer, and Mr. Davis, ever loyal, ordered catering for his book club. Sarah's apartment felt less like a cage now, filled with Ethan's laughter and Linda's improving health, thanks to the paid-off medical bills. The note from Ronaldo stayed pinned to her fridge, a daily reminder to keep pushing. She was. Every late-night study session, every tamale she rolled, every smile she gave a customer, it was all her pushing forward. The diner buzzed with a new energy too, as if Ronaldo's gesture had lit a spark. Customers left bigger tips, shared stories, lingered longer. Sarah felt it. The world wasn't as heavy anymore. She was building something, not just for herself, but for Ethan, for Linda, for the community that held her up. And somewhere, Ronaldo's quiet kindness lived on, a seed planted in a diner booth that was growing into a life she'd never dared to imagine. Years had passed since the day Cristiano Ronaldo left a $200 tip and a note in a Miami diner, a gesture that reshaped Sarah Miller's life. The sun now rose over a transformed neighborhood, its streets alive with food trucks, kids on bikes, and murals splashed across once dull walls. Sarah's small catering business, Taste of Home, had grown into a local gem. Its logo, a smiling sun over a steaming plate, painted on a van parked outside her new storefront. The shop, tucked between a barber and a bodega, smelled of fresh empanadas and brewed coffee, its wooden tables crowded with regulars. Sarah, now in her 30s, moved through the space with quiet confidence, her apron dusted with flour, her smile no longer forced. Her son, Ethan, now a lanky 13-year-old, helped on weekends, bussing tables with a grin, his soccer jersey proudly worn. Sarah's mother, Linda, healthier now, sat near the counter, chatting with customers, her laughter a sound Sarah once feared she'd lose. The storefront's walls were lined with photos, Ethan's first soccer goal, Sarah's business course graduation, a ribbon cutting with Jenny and Luis, but the heart of it all was a framed note behind the register. For you, Sarah, keep pushing, CR. It was yellowed now, but its words still burned bright, a reminder of the spark that started everything. Sarah's life was fuller now, not just with success, but with purpose. Taste of Home wasn't just a business, it was a haven. She hired locals, single moms, teens needing a second chance, immigrants like her neighbor Rosa, who rolled tamales with a master's touch. Sarah paid fair wages, offered flexible hours, and shared her recipes, remembering how Ronaldo's grant had given her wings. Her catering gigs stretched across Miami, weddings, church events, even a city hall luncheon. Customers raved about her food, but it was her warmth that kept them coming back. She greeted everyone by name, listened to their stories, made them feel seen. The shop's mural, painted by a local artist, showed a table laden with food, hands reaching for plates, a nod to the community that held Sarah up. Jenny, now managing a nearby cafe, stopped by often, her laughter filling the room. "You're killing it, girl," she'd say, hugging Sarah tight. Luis, the community organizer, was a regular too, his clipboard swapped for a laptop as he planned youth programs. Mr. Davis, older now but still sharp, read his newspaper at a corner table, his tips as generous as ever. These people, Sarah knew, were her anchors, their belief in her as vital as Ronaldo's note. The neighborhood had changed too, its spirit lifted by a quiet revolution. Ronaldo's gesture, though never publicized, had sparked a chain of kindness. At Joe's Diner, where Sarah once worked, a pay-it-forward board hung by the door, covered in sticky notes offering free meals or rides. Jenny had started it, inspired by Sarah's story, and it spread. Barbers offering free cuts, teachers tutoring for free, neighbors sharing groceries. Luis's nonprofit grew, offering job training and scholarships, funded partly by local businesses Sarah rallied. Her shop hosted monthly potlucks, tables groaning with dishes from every corner of Miami, Cuban, Haitian, Southern soul. Kids like Ethan ran through the crowd, kicking soccer balls, their laughter a soundtrack to hope. Sarah saw it all and felt a pride deeper than words. She'd been invisible once, a waitress scraping by, but now she was a cornerstone, proof that one act could ripple outward, changing more than one life. Yet, she stayed humble, deflecting praise. "I didn't do this alone," she'd say, pointing to her team, her friends, her community. One spring afternoon, Luis burst into the shop, his eyes bright. "Sarah, you're speaking at our community gala," he announced, waving a flyer. "No arguments." Sarah froze, her hands mid-kneed in dough. "Me? Speak? In front of people?" she stammered. Luis grinned. "You're a legend, Sarah. Kids need to hear your story," she protested, but Jenny, wiping down a table, chimed in. "Do it, girl. You've earned this." Sarah relented, her stomach knotting. The gala, held at a local rec center, drew hundreds, teens in hoodies, families, city officials. Sarah stood backstage, her dress simple, her hands sweaty. Ethan sat in the front row, beaming, with Linda beside him. Luis introduced her, his voice warm. "A woman who turned pain into purpose." Sarah stepped to the mic, her heart pounding. "I'm just a mom," she began, her voice shaky but clear. "I was drowning, bills, sickness, fear. Then someone saw me. Not a waitress, but me." She told her story, Ronaldo's tip, the note, the course, the grant, the shop. She didn't name him, honoring his wish for privacy, but her gratitude shone through. One act of kindness saved me, she said, tears in her eyes. And it can save someone else. Look around. See someone struggling. Help them. The crowd erupted, teens clapping, adults wiping tears. A girl in the back, her eyes wide, raised her hand. How do you keep going when it's hard? Sarah smiled. You lean on people, and you believe you're enough. The room felt electric, her words a spark for others to carry. The gala's impact lingered. Teens started a mentorship club inspired by Sarah's story. Louise launched a Taste of Home scholarship funded by her shop's profits for kids like Ethan. Sarah's business boomed, her van now a familiar sight across Miami. She hired more staff, including a shy teen, Mia, who reminded Sarah of herself, quiet, burdened, but fierce. Sarah taught her to cook, to dream, watching her bloom. Linda, stronger now, volunteered at the shop, her stories of Sarah's childhood making customers laugh. Ethan, meanwhile, thrived. Ronaldo's soccer game years ago had lit a fire in him. He joined a local team, his skills earning a scholarship to a sports academy. I'm gonna be like CR, he'd say, kicking a ball in the shop's alley. Sarah smiled, knowing he meant more than soccer. Kindness, grit, heart. She framed his first jersey next to Ronaldo's note, her two greatest treasures side by side. One evening, as Sarah locked up the shop, a black SUV pulled up, its engine a low hum. Her heart skipped. The door opened, and there he was, Cristiano Ronaldo, older now, but his smile unchanged, his cap low. Customers had left, but Jenny, mopping the floor, gasped, dropping her mop. Ethan, sweeping, froze, his eyes wide. Sarah stepped forward, her hands trembling. You came back, she whispered, tears already falling. Ronaldo nodded, his eyes warm. I heard about your shop, he said, stepping inside. I had to see it. Sarah laughed, wiping her face, and gestured to the space. Photos, mural, the framed note. This is because of you, she said, her voice thick. He shook his head, humble as ever. No, Sarah. This is you. They sat at a table, Ethan joining them, shy but starry-eyed. Sarah poured coffee, her hands steady now, and told him everything. The course, the grant, the shop, the community. You didn't just give me money, she said. You gave me hope. Ronaldo listened, his gaze steady, his silence full of respect. Ethan piped up, I'm on a soccer team because of you. Ronaldo grinned, ruffling his hair. Keep practicing, kid. You've got it. Jenny snapped a discreet photo, promising to keep it private. Luis arrived, alerted by Jenny's frantic text, his grin wide. Man, you're trouble, he teased Ronaldo, who laughed, shaking his hand. They talked late into the night, the shop glowing under string lights. Ronaldo left a new note before going. You're a star, Sarah. Keep shining. She framed it beside the first, her heart full. The SUV vanished into the night, but its impact stayed. Sarah's shop became a pilgrimage spot, not for fame, but for hope. Customers asked about the notes, and she shared her story, always ending with, Be kind, it changes everything. The community grew tighter, food drives, soccer clinics, a mural project led by Mia. Sarah spoke at more events, her voice stronger, her message clear. One act can rebuild a life. Ethan earned a college scout's notice, his future bright. Linda, now walking without oxygen, danced at potlucks, her joy infectious. Jenny opened her own bakery, crediting Sarah's courage. Luis's nonprofit won awards, its roots in Ronaldo's quiet gift. Sarah stood in her shop one night, the lights dim, the air warm with the scent of baked goods. She touched the framed notes, her fingers tracing Ronaldo's words. She wasn't invisible anymore. She was a mother, a businesswoman, a beacon. Ronaldo's gesture, small in his world, had been massive in hers, a reminder that kindness, not fame, builds legacies. She looked out at the street, alive with laughter, and knew this was her home. Not just the shop, but the people, the stories, the hope. She'd keep pushing, not for herself, but for Ethan, for Mia, for every soul who needed a spark. And somewhere, Ronaldo's smile lived on, a silent promise that the world could still be good. The story of Cristiano Ronaldo's quiet act of kindness in a Miami diner, leaving a $200 tip and a note that transformed Sarah Miller's life, is a powerful narrative that resonates deeply with the heart. It's a tale that cuts through the noise of a world obsessed with fame, wealth, and viral moments, offering instead a glimpse of raw, unfiltered humanity. As I reflect on Sarah's journey, from a struggling waitress to a thriving business owner, I'm struck by the emotional weight of this story. It's not just about a celebrity's generosity, it's about the profound impact of seeing someone struggle, acting without expectation, and igniting a ripple effect that lifts an entire community. The narrative's authenticity, Ronaldo's humility, Sarah's resilience, the community's transformation, stirs a range of emotions from awe to conviction and provides lessons that can shape how we navigate our own lives in the American cultural context, where individual success often overshadows collective compassion. The first emotion that hits me is admiration for Ronaldo's selflessness. In a culture where social media thrives on showcasing good deeds, think Instagram stories of charity events or TikTok videos of random acts of kindness, Ronaldo chose silence. He didn't post about his tip, didn't call a press conference, didn't seek a single like. He walked into a diner, saw a young woman carrying an invisible burden, and left a lifeline without fanfare. This challenges the American obsession with visibility, where success is often measured by how many see it. Ronaldo's actions remind me that the most meaningful impact happens in the shadows, away from applause. It's a gut check for my own life. How often do I help someone because it feels good to be noticed? Whether it's donating to a food drive or helping a coworker, I'm inspired to act for the sake of the act itself, not the credit. In practical terms, this means tipping generously at a local cafe, even if no one's watching, or volunteering at a shelter without snapping a selfie. Ronaldo's humility teaches us that true greatness doesn't need a hashtag. It's in the quiet moments when we choose to lift someone up. Sarah's resilience is another emotional anchor, one that hits hard in the American context of pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Her story, single mom, sick mother, eviction looming, is all too familiar in a country where economic hardship often lurks just one missed paycheck away. The image of her forcing a smile while serving tables, hiding her hunger to feed her son, Ethan, is heartbreaking. Yet she didn't break. She worked grueling shifts, sold tamales on the side, and, when Ronaldo's tip arrived, seized the chance to enroll in a business course. Her grit is inspiring, but it's her vulnerability that resonates most. She accepted help, the tip, the grant, Luis's resources, Jenny's encouragement, without letting pride stop her. In America, where independence is a cultural badge, asking for help can feel like failure. Sarah's story flips that narrative, showing that strength lies in community, not solitude. This lesson is one I can apply daily. If I'm struggling, maybe with finances or mental health, I'll reach out to friends or local resources, like a community center or hotline, instead of bottling it up. And when I see someone else in need, a neighbor, a classmate, I'll offer support without judgment, knowing that accepting help is as brave as giving it. Sarah's journey reminds me that resilience isn't about going it alone. It's about building a network of care. The community's transformation in the story stirs a sense of hope, especially in a divided America where headlines often highlight conflict over connection. Ronaldo's single act, leaving that $200 tip, didn't just change Sarah's life. It sparked a movement. Jenny's Pay It Forward board at the diner, Luis's expanded nonprofit, the potlucks and soccer clinics, all grew from one seed of compassion. This reflects the best of the American spirit. People coming together not because they're forced to, but because they're inspired. It's a reminder of how small actions can bridge gaps between rich and poor, young and old, native and newcomer. The emotional pull here is the sense of possibility, the idea that one person's kindness can turn a neighborhood from a place of survival into a place of thriving. I'm moved by how skepticism gave way to belief, how cynics became helpers. In my own life, I can start this ripple effect. Maybe it's organizing a block party to meet my neighbors or donating books to a local school. The point is, I don't need Ronaldo's wealth or fame to make a difference. A coffee bought for a stranger, a kind word to a cashier, or a meal shared with a co-worker can spark change. This story challenges me to be proactive, to see my community not as a backdrop, but as a canvas for connection. Emotionally, the story grips because it's universal, tapping into fears and dreams we all share. Who hasn't felt Sarah's despair, the crushing weight of bills, or the fear of failing those we love? Who hasn't longed for a Ronaldo to appear, not with money but with hope? The joy in Ethan's soccer scholarship, Linda's recovery, and Sarah's thriving shop mirrors the American dream. Not the glossy Hollywood version, but the real one. A chance to rise through hard work and heart. Ronaldo's quiet exit, his refusal to seek praise, stirs both admiration and conviction. Could I act with such humility? The story's contrast to our loud, self-promoting culture, think reality TV or influencer flexes, is a wake-up call. It says the real heroes are the ones who don't need a spotlight, who give because it's right, not because it's trending. This emotional tension between the world's noise and the story's quiet power pushes me to redefine success. In America, we chase promotions, cars, followers, but Sarah's shop, built on grit and gratitude, feels truer. I want to measure my life by the lives I touch, not the likes I get. The lessons I draw from this story are both practical and profound, tailored to the American experience where individual ambition and community ties often tug in opposite directions. First, act with intention. Ronaldo didn't stumble into helping Sarah. He saw her struggle and chose to act. I can be intentional too, scanning my surroundings for needs, whether it's a homeless person needing a meal or a friend needing a listener. I'll keep my eyes open at the grocery store, the gym, or my workplace, ready to step in with a small gesture. Second, embrace vulnerability. Sarah's willingness to accept Ronaldo's tip, Luis's resources, and her community's support opened doors. I'll practice this by being honest about my struggles, maybe admitting to a coworker I'm overwhelmed or seeking a mentor's advice. I'll also create space for others to be vulnerable, offering help without making them feel small. Third, think long-term. Ronaldo's grant and Sarah's business course show that true help empowers, not just rescues. I can invest in others' futures, tutoring a kid, donating to a scholarship fund, or teaching a skill like budgeting or cooking. At work, I'll mentor a new hire, not just for a day but over months, helping them grow. Fourth, stay humble. Ronaldo's silence is a masterclass in giving without ego. I'll celebrate others' wins, my friend's promotion, my siblings' art show, without needing to one-up them. When I help, I'll do it quietly, like leaving an extra tip or writing an encouraging note. No Instagram post required. Fifth, build community. The story's heart is the neighborhood's transformation. Potlucks, murals, soccer clinics. In America, where individualism often trumps collective good, this is a radical call. I'll foster community in my own spaces, hosting a game night, joining a local volunteer group, or starting a book club. At my apartment complex, I'll knock on doors, introduce myself, share cookies. These small acts can turn strangers into neighbors, creating a safety net like the one that caught Sarah. 6. Redefine success. Ronaldo, a global icon, found meaning in a diner booth. Sarah, once invisible, became a cornerstone. Success isn't always a penthouse or a viral video. It's Ethan's scholarship, Linda's laugh, a shop full of stories. I'll shift my goals, less about climbing ladders, more about building bridges. I'll track my progress not by my bank account, but by the moments I make someone smile. A coworker, a stranger, my family. This story's emotional core, hope rising from hardship, reminds me that no matter how tough life gets, one act of kindness can shift everything. I'm inspired to be that shift, whether it's a dollar or a dream shared. The story also challenges American cultural norms around fame and philanthropy. We love our celebrity heroes, think Oprah's giveaways or Beyoncé's scholarships. But Ronaldo's anonymity flips the script. He didn't need his name on a building or a viral tweet. This pushes me to question my own need for recognition. At work, I'll focus on doing my job well, not fishing for praise. In my social circles, I'll uplift others' stories, not just mine. The story also highlights the power of small acts in a country where grand gestures dominate. We're bombarded with images of billionaires funding schools or disaster relief. But Sarah's life changed with $200 and a note. This empowers me to act within my means, buying a meal for a struggling friend, slipping $20 to a coworker short on rent. These aren't headline-worthy, but they're life-changing. Finally, the story underscores the value of perseverance in a culture that celebrates instant success. Sarah didn't become a business owner overnight. She studied, saved, hustled. I'll embrace the grind, whether it's learning a new skill or saving for a goal, knowing that small steps lead to big wins. Emotionally, the story leaves me with a mix of gratitude and responsibility. Gratitude for people like Ronaldo, Sarah, Jenny, and Louise, who remind us what's possible. Responsibility to carry their lessons forward, to be the one who sees, acts, and inspires. In America, where the pursuit of happiness can feel like a solo race, this story is a call to run together. I want to live with intention, vulnerability, and humility, building a life where kindness is my currency and community my wealth. Sarah's shop, Ethan's dreams, the neighborhood's murals, they're proof that one spark can light a fire. I'm ready to be that spark, not for fame, but for the quiet joy of knowing I made a difference. If this story of heart and hope lit a fire in you, don't keep it to yourself. Smash that like button to spread the vibe, share this video with your crew to inspire them, and subscribe to our channel for more tales that lift the soul. Drop a comment below, tell us how you'll pass on kindness, or share a moment when someone changed your life. Let's keep this wave of compassion rolling.